Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let's see if I can get my camera going. Okay, we can't. All right, so we're going to wait a few more minutes for some people to kind of trickle in. But while that's happening, I'll kind of give everyone a little bit of a lowdown. So welcome to Lunchtime Connections. The purpose of this webinar is to introduce NHADEC members to one another and give each one the opportunity to tell us about their business and capabilities. My name is Sean Foote, and I will be your host today. I am the Supply Chain Manager at Transport, a NHADEC member, and a member of the NHADEC Marketing Committee. So the format of today's webinar, and sorry if I keep kind of looking back and forth, I'm adding people in. We have one presentation today. So each presenter will take about 15 minutes to talk about their company. And at the end, we will have time for some Q&A. So during this time, if you have questions, we ask that you hold them until the end of the presentation. You can type them into the chat pane and we'll make sure to address them at that time. But we'd like to have Liz, our presenter, kind of have free reign and not to interrupt her kind of. So then with this, I will be monitoring and keeping track of the questions. If you would like to ask her directly, at that time, I ask you to raise your hand and then we'll call upon you and we'll try to make this as smooth as possible. So right before we start, I'm just gonna ask that everyone puts themselves on mute. I know it's lunchtime, so you could be snacking and we don't wanna have any interruptions. We'll be able to hear it over the audio. And as I said, remember just to hold your questions until the end. So with that being said, I am going to let everyone else also know this is being recorded. If you have any problems with that, please either refrain or leave the meeting and we can share it with you at the end, but this will be recorded. All right, so now I'd like to introduce Liz Cacciola from Keyspin Manufacturing. And let me get the presentation going. There we go. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to present Liz Cacciola from Keyspin Manufacturing. And Liz, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean and Bill, for inviting Keyspin Manufacturing to meet this group. Really appreciate it. So I put together a very brief presentation that gives you an overview of Keyspin and hopefully piques your interest in learning more. So excellent try, Sean. Liz Cacciola, Managing Partner and Business Owner of Keyspin Manufacturing. My career spans 30 years in various manufacturing, supply chain, and quality management roles, exclusively in the medical device industry. And you're like, well, what are you doing here? Next slide, John. So anyway, a little bit more. Keyspin Manufacturing was founded in 2015. Myself and my business partner worked for Keystone Dental, an OEM dental implant company located in Burlington, Mass, who moved their operations to Irvine, California, and divested themselves of internal machining. So I asked the president of the company, hey, can Paul and I buy the equipment and be your supplier? And he said, sure. So that's what we did. And really, really excited to have that opportunity to start a new business. So next slide, Sean. So then we used our focus in the med device industry, leveraging our contacts, working at other places, and to kind of look at adjacencies. But starting with, organizations, companies that might be interested that we achieve tight tolerances, provide excellent part finishes. We do perform 100% inspection for workmanship, and a really high level of documentation for inspection and certification, which hopefully is also very important in the defense industry that you guys are all in. So next slide. So our current customer portfolio is dental implants. medical device OEMs, medical device contract manufacturers, defense contract manufacturers, and larger, more diversified machine shops. 100% of our business has come from referrals. So again, my partner and I started this business leaving an OEM, between 20 and 30 years experience and other contract manufacturing med device companies. And once we got the word out, we were able to kind of, to build a business with our contacts. And it's, been great, working with people that we know in areas that we know. Next slide. And then came COVID. So prior to COVID, literally everybody would say, don't even look outside the medical device industry. That is the sweet spot to be machining for. High margins, we have ISO 13485, you can leverage that, stick with medical device. Well, in 2020, as COVID took over, elective surgeries plummeted. Dental implants, where we were highly concentrated, is a highly elective and non-reimbursable therapy, and that sector has really lagged forecasts. So we're really, we're pursuing opportunities to diversify and court adjacent industries that would benefit from our capabilities and medical device experience work ethic. And I'll tell you, we've been doing a little bit of this, but our medical device customers, kept coming on, even stronger, and we would put it to the side. This has certainly made it obvious to us that diversification is very important to our long-term success. So next slide. So I would say to you're probably like, why Keyspin manufacturing for us? Well, our equipment capabilities transcend, med device, and they can be used for any kind of, complex small component. So for those of you that know, we are 100% Swiss style machine shop. And if you don't know what Swiss style machining is, I can tell you, you can visit. Our equipment is 100% Citizen M style machines, and the M machines are the top of the line. It's what Keystone started with, and we have continued adding that model to our shop. So it's multi-access, multiple tool positions. Now I will say, we only do parts that are smaller, 16 millimeters or smaller. So that's 0.629 inches. So that does put us in a niche, and obviously no quoting all those 1-inch parts. The equipment does offer best-in-class tolerance and feature capabilities. So the Citizen M machines, high accuracy, excellent part finish and workmanship, and efficient production cycles. We can work on both the front and the back end of a part, which reduces cycles and reduces cost. Next slide, Sean. Also, in my slide, you're not going to see a ton of pictures of parts. We have an extremely high regard for customer confidentiality. The only pictures that I do have and that I could share more of are pictures of Keystone Dental product, because that's in the public domain, that's how we started, and people know that we do their parts. Other than that, we will provide, and we have people agreeing to provide customer references from other customers. But our customers very much protect their confidentiality, both as an OEM, not wanting people to know who else to do their parts, as well as contract manufacturers that want to be the primary contact with their customers and don't necessarily share their outsourcing information. Next slide. So this is, not a great picture, but this is a little like, an idea. And if any of you have had a dental implant, you probably never even saw it before it went in your mouth. But this is an example of 3 different dental implant lines that we make. And you can at least see, how small they are and a little bit of how complex. Next slide, Sean. So this is an example of, a lot of implants, in a tray. And again, you can kind of get the idea of how small and the features. And one more. Yeah, and so this is a little bit of a close-up. So again, some of the features, you can see threads, you can see flutes. At the top of the implant, there's internal connections, and they're fairly, complex, so that instrumentation fits, abutments fit, screws fit. So just kind of an example of, the kind of work that we do. Next slide. So that kind of, sums up, Keyspin Manufacturing. Again, our start in dental implants. We have, expanded beyond that to other medical device, instruments and implants, as well as dipped our toe, a bit with some defense clients. And that has, caused us to say what else is out there, especially in what seems to be, a very rich local industry in our area. And we really do relish making those personal connections with people. And, post-COVID, maybe having coffee together or lunch, having you over. So anyway, I'd love to entertain questions and invite you to either visit the shop, or we could FaceTime. And again, I understand with you folks an NDA, and we're, more than willing, to quote a part, and also, to do some samples or show you something similar to give you confidence that we could make your part. So that's all I have. Thanks for viewing, and any questions?
So Liz, I apologize. I butchered your last name, even though we worked on it prior to it. I think that was just a little bit of nervousness.
It's never happened before.
Well, with the last name like Foot, I'm right there with you. So I understand. So we do have some questions here. First off, if someone was looking for a second source for parts, would Keyspin be a good fit for this?
Yeah, and we get a lot of those calls. So people have developed, products internally, and then they're feeling nervous that they only have one source, or they have internal capacity that can't keep up, and they second source with us. And we're not like, oh, we want all your parts or forget it. We feel like we're the perfect size that would, and with our capabilities, that would make us, a good second source to take the pressure off people if something else happens. And even if it's just a couple orders a year to keep, their toes in it, we do that for people. Yes. Thank you.
Excellent. And then I have another one. Have you been doing business internationally? And then if so, what countries?
So we have actually the company that we started with, Keystone Dental, was since acquired and integrated with a company in Israel. And now we ship components to Israel. And that's really it. But we'd be up for it.
Okay. There you go. Good answer.
Now, Bill, I saw, oh, is that a question? That's just a statement.
No, so I was just explaining to people in the chat area that we've actually had defense contractors approach NHADEC looking for companies with experience manufacturing parts in the medical industry. So Liz and I have already talked about that. We've had a couple manufacturers approach us, and they're approaching us because they're working on projects that have really tight tolerances. And folks that work in the medical industry understand that and know how to do that very well. And some of our defense OEMs appreciate that. And so we do get that kind of request.
You know, we have had very good feedback from both our industrial and our defense contractors. And a little bit surprisingly, some of the industrial customers have actually said to us, the parts don't have to be this good. And that's an interesting, because we don't really know how to not do the quality work that we do. And I wouldn't want to get out of that habit. So we're getting a lot more work from this shop too. And they're a little bit, it's a fine line because they make a lot of these parts internally and they're liking our parts better. So I guess not so bad. But.
Now, Liz, you said to contact you, the best way would be to, you know, start a video call or something like that. But do you have contact information that we would be able to kind of give out and distribute?
Oh, sure. I can. I mean, Bill has my contact. You have it's all on my signature. Yes.
All right. I just want to make sure that's okay.
Please do.
Pass that along with you. Okay.
I will send that on to everybody afterwards. Liz and I talk just about every month on various things. So I'm happy to send that on to everyone on this call.
Now, I don't see any hands raised. I do want to do a speak now or forever hold your peace, and then I can kind of wrap this up and we can discuss other things. But does anyone else have any questions for Liz, or do we think we're all caught up on Keyspin manufacturing? All right, I can see everyone jumping out of their seats. Well, I'm just going to say we're going to wrap up this presentation. I want to thank Liz again for presenting during this Lunchtime Connection, and I want to thank you all for joining us. Hopefully we can have a few more presenters in the upcoming months, and I know we have a few of you guys slated already for April. I see Camden National here representing, so we'll keep in touch with you guys. But as of now, this will officially end our Lunchtime